You're listening to Paradox Eclipse Theory, and this is we deployed 100 space marines into the maw. Only one marine survived. Out there, in the hollow darkness of a dead asteroid, something ancient woke up long before our dropship did. Something that didn't stay dormant and didn't stay human. Inside the maw, survival isn't about courage. It's about outsmarting what learns from every marine it consumes. Because once it adapts, once it remembers, there's nowhere left to hide in the shadows. If you're ready to descend into this nightmare, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with anyone who still believes space is safe. Drop a comment below. Your support keeps this channel alive, even when nothing else is. Now brace yourself, dim the lights, and step into the maw. I should never have lived to tell this. The first scream hit before we even landed. I remember it now, like a phantom echo lodged behind my eyes. I can still feel the vibrations crawling through the dropship floor, the kind that makes your teeth rattle and your chest tighten. Our orders were simple. 100 Marines, fully armed, deploy at 0300 into the maw, sweep the tunnels, rescue survivors, and neutralize any threats. Straightforward. Routine. That's what they said. I was the point man, Corporal Ryan Kale. My visor reflected nothing but black void as we dropped through the maw's fractured atmosphere. From space, the asteroid had looked dead. Smooth. Barren. A perfect tomb. But closer, I saw the faintest shimmer along the hull of the tunnels, almost like veins pulsing with light. My stomach tightened. My instincts screamed wrong. I said nothing. The mission couldn't stop for a gut feeling. Not here. Stay sharp, Lieutenant Voss murmured over the comms. His voice was calm, unnervingly calm, like he hadn't seen what I had. Standard sweep. Watch corners. Report movement. I followed the ramp down, my boots scraping metal against the ancient composite. The airlock hissed behind us. The maw wasn't welcoming. Not really. The walls weren't carved. They were alive. Flesh and stone fused in grotesque symmetry, pulsing faintly under the dim mission lights. My scanner beeped erratically, then died. Motion trackers overloaded, flashing red. This doesn't look right, I muttered under my breath, not wanting anyone to hear. You're paranoid, Voss replied. But even he slowed, scanning the ribbed walls with the barrel of his rifle. The smell hit next, a tang of iron, wet decay, something biological. I wanted to gag but swallowed hard instead. Then came the scratching. First faint, like claws dragging across metal. Then louder, closer, echoing down the tunnels. The first scream followed, and it wasn't human. It came from the darkness. Chitin, mandibles, bioluminescent veins tracing the contours of limbs that shouldn't exist. They moved faster than anything I'd ever trained for. A tidal wave of creatures smashed into us. Bolters fired, rounds ripped through them, but for every one that dropped, 3 more climbed over their corpses. Our formation shattered in seconds. Fall back, I yelled, but my voice was swallowed by the roar. My squad, the men I'd trained with for years, vanished into screams and shadow. I dropped 2 creatures with my rifle before a claw tore into my side, knocking me onto the jagged wall. Pain erupted like fire along my ribs. I tasted blood. Ryan, shouted Private Halder, but a shadowed mass surged over him before I could reach out. I watched him disappear, a mangled silhouette in the pulsating light. We tried to regroup, crawling through tunnels that twisted beneath us like the insides of some monstrous organism. The maw shifted as we moved, walls contracting, narrowing, squeezing. It breathed. I could feel it in my chest. I could hear it in my head. Checkpoint Delta, Voss called, but his voice cracked as the walls thumped closer. Everyone report. A shriek drowned him out. I pressed against the wall, trembling, trying to control my respirator's hiss. Only silence answered. The exit sealed. Not mechanically, organically. The maw closed its jaws behind us. Panic surged through the remaining Marines. We fought like cornered predators, but the odds were never in our favor. I saw it next, a creature dragging a familiar armor suit along the tunnel. The helmet reflected my face for a split second, and I froze. That wasn't Halder. The mouthless thing mimicked his movements. clicking in a voice that almost sounded like him, but wrong. Not human. Never human. Keep moving, I shouted, forcing my legs over bodies, over fragments of bone and armor. My HUD blinked red with injury warnings, my heart pounding so loudly I thought it would fracture my chest. Hours, I don't know how long. We crawled, stumbled, fought. Every corridor birthed horrors. Wings scraping the ceilings, claws slicing through ceramite. Each marine fell, and with them, I lost a piece of myself. Friends, brothers, all gone. Their voices twisted into the Ma's symphony of shrieks. Eventually, I was alone. One greened up blinking among a field of red. Mine. I don't remember why I kept moving. Maybe hope. Maybe stubbornness. Maybe madness. All I knew was that I had to reach the center. And then I saw it. A chamber wider than any hangar bay, walls pulsating like a heartbeat. Veins of light coursed through the rock, feeding something. At the center, a hive, but not a nest. A factory. Pods lined the walls, writhing, sloshing with viscera. And emerging from them were shapes. My brothers, recreated with twisted armor, their voices clicking in unnatural cadence. The Maw wasn't just alive. It remembered. It replicated. Every marine it killed, it molded in its image. I raised my rifle. Fired. Emptied the magazine. Primed my grenades. The creatures pressed closer, clicking and shrieking. I ran. Through tunnels, over corpses, flames licking the walls. Pain and blood blurred into a single sensation of motion, desperation, survival. A shaft opened above me. I leapt, cracked visor scraping the metal, oxygen failing. Vacuum pulled at me like the claws of the Maw itself. My suit's system screamed warnings I barely heard. Hours later, a patrol frigate found me drifting, half mad, soaked in my own blood. "What happened to the rest of your squad?" they asked, in disbelief. I told them the truth. Don't send anyone else. The Maw is awake, and it's building an army from us. They think I'm delusional, traumatized, but I know better. Last night, I heard scratching inside the walls, and I know, in the cold of my cramped quarters, that something came back with me, something human and not. The Maw remembered every sound, every movement, every life it had claimed. That much became clear the moment we pushed deeper beyond the first tunnels. The corridors weren't stable. They shifted, pulsing, closing behind us as if to erase any trace we had ever been there. Our comms went haywire. Static, clicks, whispers that sounded like the voices of the fallen. I tried to ignore them, tried to focus on the mission, tried to focus on staying alive. Ryan left flank. Sergeant Drax's voice cracked, panic sharp beneath the armor. I turned to see half his squad slammed into the wall by something unseen, bodies folding like paper, screams ripped from throats before they could finish. The Maw had learned us already. Every corner, every shadow, hostile, alive, watching. I opened fire blindly. Bolter rounds tore through the air, lighting up the tunnels in bursts of white. 2 forms fell. No, they weren't forms. Bodies. Resemblances. My mind tricked me into thinking I saw them. Halder, Jessica, young recruits I'd trained alongside. But their faces weren't faces anymore. Chitin plates fused to their helmets. Limbs twisted, clicking and screeching with the Maw's own voice. I vomited on the tunnel floor. "Keep moving," I shouted. My voice sounded alien to me, foreign, like it didn't belong. I grabbed the nearest survivor and pulled him forward. He screamed my name, arms flailing as a tendril snaked from the wall, wrapping around his leg, dragging him into the darkness. I heard his armor crack and his spine snap. Silence. Only the Maw's pulsing walls answered. We tried to regroup at what should have been the second checkpoint, but the path had changed. The Maw was folding itself, rearranging like a living labyrinth. 1 second the exit was ahead. The next, a wall of flesh and stone blocked us. Marines stumbled into alcoves that weren't there before, tripping over corpses, or over creatures wearing corpses' faces. Lieutenant Voss fell first among those who hadn't already been claimed. His helmet went dark in my visor feed, and I heard the clicks of something mimicking his voice as it dragged him backward. "Go, go," I screamed, firing my sidearm at the thing pretending to be him. The bullets tore through synthetic bone and armor plating alike, but the creature didn't stop. It only paused, studying me. Then it vanished into the wall. I don't know how many of us died in the next hour, or if it was minutes. Time stopped. Only screams, gunfire, and the Maw's wet, pulsing breathing. I saw a squad feed blink out one by one on my HUD. First orange, then red, until green alone pulsed faintly in the chaos. Mine. We cornered ourselves in a larger chamber, walls slick and glistening with some kind of exudate, a faint bioluminescent light showing shapes moving just under the surface. I could see the outlines of creatures pressed against the walls. Eyes, or were they sensors, staring at us, waiting. Think we can clear it? Sergeant Drax whispered, voice trembling. His armor was scratched, dented, scorched. His helmet visor reflected nothing but pulsing darkness. No, I said, and I meant it. Then came the first Hive drone. Not a swarm, not the hundreds we had already faced. One, walking upright, wearing the tattered armor of a sergeant, but the face melted into chitin, eyes replaced by glowing slits. It raised a clawed hand, clicked, mimicked a greeting or a warning. I emptied my mag. It didn't even flinch. The thing tilted its head, almost curious, before sprinting through the chamber, dragging another Marine into some unseen abyss. My squad attempted to follow, but the tunnels weren't tunnels anymore. They were folds, alive, constricting. Screams echoed, distorted, bouncing off walls that didn't exist before. I ran, always ran. I couldn't stay, couldn't watch my brothers die again. Each step was a gamble against the Maw itself, each breath a challenge against the stench of blood, decay, and something far older than us. Corporal Kale, that's me. I was the last to fall behind. But I didn't fall. Not yet. I saw them, crawling from organic pods, armored forms resembling my own men but twisted beyond recognition. Their voices were no longer human. They clicked, chittered, a terrible harmony of memory and malice. Each one carried a fragment of a fallen Marine, a memory, a gesture, twisted into something monstrous. I thought of Jessica, of Halder, of Drax, of the rookie Moreau, screaming when tendrils wrapped around him like snakes. I imagined them all watching me now, trapped, forced into this factory of horrors. And I understood what the Maw wanted. It wasn't just killing. It was learning, replicating, evolving. Every Marine we lost became a blueprint, every scream a command in its growing Hive mind. I made it to a junction where 3 tunnels converged. One led up, one down, one vanished entirely behind a wall that pulsed with light like a beating heart. I chose the down tunnel, instinct, not logic. My HUD warned of low oxygen. My sidearm clicked empty. My grenades were gone. My armor was shredded, plates bent, wiring sparking. But I kept moving. From the darkness, a shriek split the air. It was Voss, or something that sounded like him. My stomach twisted. My hands shook. I fired reflexively. The thing didn't die. It only tilted its head, tilting the light of the Maw across the walls, illuminating hundreds of pods, writhing, pulsating, every shape a mockery of life. The Maw wasn't a nest. It wasn't just alive. It was conscious, and I was trespassing in its mind. Every step forward was an invitation to be studied, dissected, and remade. I ran through the chamber, through corridors that weren't corridors, through tunnels that shifted under my boots. Screams echoed in my head, a chorus of the lost, every one of them mimicked, twisted, and returned to serve the Maw's purpose. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, I found a shaft, a chance, a single way out. I leapt. The metal grate caught my boots, tearing through my armor and leaving a bleeding gash. Vacuum rushed past. My lungs burned. My helmet cracked. My HUD flickered red, then dark. Hours later, I was found drifting. Alone. The Maw had taken 99 Marines that night. It had learned from them. It had used them. And it waited. Always waiting. I should never have survived Part 2. I shouldn't even remember it. But here I am. One green light blinking among a sea of red. And the Maw? It's still awake. I should never have been the last one. I should never have seen what I saw. But I did. And the images, they're carved into my skull, burned there by the maw itself. The shaft spat me into a tunnel that shouldn't have existed, a narrow chute of metal fused with living tissue. I landed hard, cracked helmet, bleeding, lungs screaming. Every step I took echoed like a drumbeat in the living walls. I could hear whispers, almost words, stitched from memories of the fallen Marines. They weren't voices anymore. They were warnings. Please. Mockery. I stumbled forward. My armor, battered and scorched, scraped against the pulsing walls. Tendrils flicked out, brushing my shoulders like curious fingers. My HUD flickered with low oxygen alerts. I tasted copper and iron in my mouth. Pain was constant, but fear had sharpened me. Fear was my only ally now. Then I saw it, the central chamber. Larger than any hangar I'd ever seen. Walls pulsating like a heart, throbbing with light and fluid. Pods lined the walls like a city of grotesque glass towers. Inside each one, a shape moved. Shapes familiar, but wrong. Faces of my brothers, armor warped into bone and chitin, voices clicking in distorted imitation. The maw didn't just kill. It copied. It remembered. Every Marine who had fallen here was not gone. They were transformed, reborn to serve its growing consciousness. I froze. Somewhere in the center, a massive mass of writhing forms coalesced. It was alive, aware, and watching me. Tentacles, wings, claws, armored limbs, all fused into one shifting shape. And then, as if noticing me personally, it paused. The chamber went silent except for the pulsing of its core. A thought passed into my mind, not spoken, not heard, but felt. You are next. I ran. Every instinct screamed, every muscle burned. The creatures that had once been my brothers surged from the pods, armored forms dragging themselves toward me. Jessica, Holder, Drax, Moreau, all of them, clicking, screeching, distorted parodies of humanity. I emptied my rifle into them, bolters tearing through chitin and bone, but for every one I destroyed, 2 more took its place. The maw was endless. Grenades. I tossed them blindly, fire and shrapnel ripping through the pods. The explosions illuminated the chamber, reflecting every horror in stark white flashes. Tendrils lashed at me, cutting, scraping, trying to drag me into the heart of the maw. My armor groaned under the stress, servos straining. I stumbled through corridors that warped around me. The maw was learning from my movements, predicting my path, closing in from all sides. I could hear it in the walls, the clicks, the whispers, the distorted voices of my fallen brothers. It had become a living map of every Marine who had entered, every strategy we had trained to employ. It had learned us, and it had adapted. I remembered the escape shaft, the only way out. Adrenaline sharpened my focus. I sprinted, limbs burning, lungs screaming. A clawed hand ripped at my leg, dragging me to the floor. I kicked, fired my sidearm, felt armor crack. Pain was sharp, hot, but I kept moving. Up the shaft, clawing at the edge, dragging myself through metal and tissue fused together. The maw pulsed beneath me. Its voice, or whatever it was, clicked and shrieked, echoing in my skull. It was calling me, taunting me. I had no weapons left, no reinforcements, no hope but motion and instinct. I reached the upper exit, leapt, and felt the vacuum of space pull at my back. I was expelled into the void, bleeding, half-conscious, drifting through silence. Hours later, the patrol frigate found me. Alone, alive, green light blinking among a sea of red. My HUD was dead, oxygen low, body failing. They asked me what happened. What happened to the other 99? I told them the truth. The maw isn't dead. It's alive. It's conscious. It's building an army from us. Don't send anyone else. They wrote it off as trauma, stress, hallucination. Debriefed me 11 times. They called it a nightmare I had imagined. But I know better. I saw it. I touched it. I ran from it. Back on the ship, in my quarantine cell, I tried to sleep. I couldn't. The scratches started first, soft at first, behind the walls. Then louder, deliberate. A rhythmic tapping, like claws tracing steel, moving closer. My mind screamed, but my body froze. I knew that sound. I had heard it in the maw. It was patient, calculating. And then I realized the maw had followed me. I sat in the darkness, bleeding, half mad, listening to the scratching, and understood it had already begun. One Marine returned. One Marine survived. But it doesn't care about survival. It cares about replication. And soon, the universe will hear the clicks and shrieks of the army it is building from us. And this time, no Marine will survive. I wonder where you're watching from tonight. A distant space station, orbiting some forgotten asteroid, or maybe somewhere deeper, lost in the darkness between the stars. Drop your sector or planet in the comments. I like to know how far the Maw's shadow might reach. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe before the horrors you think are gone come crawling through the vents behind you. Stay alert out there, and if you ever hear scratching inside your walls or catch movement where no one should be, don't turn around. This has been Paradox Eclipse Theory. Until next time, keep your lights on and your bolters loaded.